Well, the markets are moving strongly, but one of the other stories that we continue to track very, very closely is the escalation of tensions between India and Pakistan. But here is the latest. Border areas from Jammu and Kashmir to Gujarat, which had seen renewed hostilities following Pakistan's violation of the ceasefire understanding just within hours of the announcement, remained calm on the morning of the 11th of May and last night with no fresh reports of firing, shelling or drone sightings. My colleague Parikshit Luthra is also here with me. We will, of course, give you a sense of what we are expecting now as far as that crucial meeting between the DG military operations of both India and Pakistan are concerned. That meeting will take place shortly. We've just seen the Prime Minister hold a meeting with the service chiefs as well as the Defence Minister and the National Security Advisor. And I would imagine that that meeting is crucial ahead of the DGMO talks, because that meeting would have taken stock and put together its assessment of threat perception as well as things where things currently stand. Well, speaking of threat perception, what is very clear now is that there is some sort of a decline, there is some sort of a reduction as far as the threat perception is concerned, and which is why we've seen the government decide to reopen 32 airports across the country for civilian use, for civilian purposes. This is a story that was broken by my colleague Madiha. It is now confirmed. Madiha, 32 airports across the country had been closed for civil aviation, for the use of civilian aircraft, for the use of commercial airlines. But as of today, a NOTAM being issued, which for the benefit of our viewers is essentially a circular being issued to suggest that they can now reopen for all activities.
Exactly, Shereen. It was our news break some time back. We were informed by airport officials about the reopening of these airports, and now it is confirmed. NOTAMs, which is notice to airmen, to reopen 32 airports have been issued, which means all the airports across Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, Himachal, Rajasthan and Gujarat that were closed due to military action will now open for civil flights. These airports were closed for operations since the 7th of May. The closure was then extended to the 15th of May, and airlines had cancelled flights to these airports. About around 400 flights of different airlines were cancelled to these airports till the 15th of May. But the reopening of airport doesn't mean that all flights will resume immediately, as we are also seeing airlines like Indigo now issuing advisories about progressively resuming flights. So since airlines have to plan in advance, open bookings to inform passengers, some flights may resume later today, but most likely normalcy in flight operations may take some time. Also, it is important to note that Pakistan continues to close its airspace for Indian airlines. India also has closed its airspace for Pakistani airlines. So the rerouting of international flights for Indian carriers will also continue, and complete normalcy may take some time, but definitely this is an indication of normalcy returning.
Yes, Madiha, that's an important news break there by Madiha. So 32 airports which were closed for civilian purposes, for civil use, will now be operational. But as Madiha was pointing out, it may take a few days before normalcy returns, because airlines will now have to reschedule flights and so on and so forth. But that is a development that's already now taken place, a crucial development that will take place shortly. Are the DGMO talks, the Director General Military Operations on both sides will be speaking. Parikshit, the Indian government has made it very, very clear that the genesis, the start of the cessation of hostilities between both sides happened at the DGMO level, and they had scheduled another call between both sides today on the 12th of May, and that is what we're now waiting for.
Exactly. And what India has said, that this is a bilateral issue. This is not something that US is getting into, and frankly speaking, we've not acknowledged the US role in this crisis or mediating this entire issue. What India maintains, that when it comes to stopping firing at the border, it has to be done at the level of Director General of Military Operations. What this means now, we had reached an understanding on 10th May at around 3:35 p.m. that both sides will stop firing and military action at the border, limited to that.
Yeah.
There is no political understanding. Sources telling us that that understanding was reached without any preconditions. What do I mean? The Indus Water Treaty remains in abeyance. The economic actions that we had taken, suspending trade, suspending shipping, suspending postal services, all remains in place. Our diplomatic actions to isolate Pakistan remain in place. What the two officials will discuss today is how to give shape to that understanding over the next few days.
And whether that understanding moves to being an agreement.
Yes. But we also must tell our viewers, Shereen, that DGMO talks happen on a
regular
basis. They happen every week, even in times of peace. So at the most, what these officials would say that we have an understanding right now. Can we continue this understanding till the time we speak next after a few days? Is this a ceasefire? No. India has not called it a ceasefire. When it comes to making things normal at the border, it has to be decided at a political level. DGMOs, frankly speaking, are only implementing the consensus reached. There's a meeting happening at the Prime Minister's residence right now, and this is where the political understanding will be communicated to the military officials as to what it is being done. The DGMO himself cannot decide for the country. He's only trying to cool things down, depending on what the political leadership has communicated.
Absolutely. The call has to be taken, the decision has to be taken by the highest levels at the political level, and that is why that meeting of the Prime Minister, along with the three service chiefs, the National Security Advisor, Defence Minister, is crucial ahead of that meeting. But, you know, Parikshit, the good news is that we haven't seen any further ceasefire or any material ceasefire violations, at least overnight. And the indication coming in, you know, even through the course of that briefing yesterday, was that what we saw perhaps on the night of the 10th was maybe not to be taken as seriously. The Indian side is ready for responding, but the message seemed to be that Pakistan's message had not percolated down to its own people.
Right. What India has always maintained that we were not the escalators here. It was Pakistan responsible for the original escalation in Pahalgam. We're only responding to that. We are taking revenge. And since then, whatever Pakistan has done, we have responded. Having said that, you're very right that things were calm yesterday. Immediately after the understanding was reached on 10th afternoon, Shereen, we had seen heavy artillery firing across the LOC and also drone sightings across the border. That was responded to very strongly. In fact, via hotline, we communicated that if you're going to do this, we're going to hit back harder, deeper, bigger. Last night, you're right, the army has now issued a statement that we did not see any firing or drones last night. It was a calm night after many days of violence, which is a good sign. But India will remain circumspect and skeptical.
Absolutely.
Our defences will remain on alert, irrespective of what happens in these DGMO talks.
Absolutely, and so that vigil and the standby continues. But Parikshit, you know, let's talk about the US now, and particularly this dissonance that is emerging in the way that Pakistan is acknowledging publicly, tweet after tweet, in his speech, in his address to the nation, the Pakistan Prime Minister thanking Donald Trump, of course also acknowledging the role he believes other countries played. India has not acknowledged, forget President Trump, has not acknowledged any third-party role, including the US's role in this. The Indian statement issued by the Ministry of External Affairs has not mentioned any role of the US. They haven't talked about that call supposedly made by J.D. Vance to the Prime Minister either. So, you know, this... and the manner in which President Trump has acted, with the tweet on the 10th of May, announcing the ceasefire on behalf of India and Pakistan to the world, and following that up yesterday on the 10th of May, almost putting India and Pakistan on equal footing, you know, hyphenating India and Pakistan and saying that he will do more trade with both great nations. I mean, this makes our engagement with the US complex, does it not?
It definitely raises a question about our political and economic strategy. We thought that we should be the first nations, among the first nations to offer him a trade deal and get a reprieve. We managed to get a reprieve, and we're possibly going to get a trade deal earlier as well. But this only drives home the point that he's a president who is transactional. You cannot accept everything that he says at face value. He's not somebody, if he makes a promise to you today, that same promise will remain on paper 6 months later. So that is definitely true. And as far as the US role is concerned, India has made it very clear. In fact, top sources in the government telling us that we never sought permission from the United States or anyone. When we decided to hit Pahalgam, when we decided to hit targets in Pakistan...
After Pahalgam. The initiation of operations.
Yes, after Pahalgam, we only called up the US and said that, listen, we will be attacking terror targets in Pakistan. We will take revenge. Nobody needs to tell us anything. So we never sought anyone's permission. When US was calling us, we were keeping them aware about what was happening. And it was Pakistan which actually rushed to the US for help after India carried out Operation Sindoor. In fact, Marco Rubio called up the NSA, and we made it very clear that, you know, we are we are all for de-escalation, but Pakistan has to do it first. We will respond to everything you did. You hit our civilians, we are going to respond. And, J.D. Vance had also called the Prime Minister, saying that there is serious intelligence that the US has about an escalation of violence from the Pakistani side. And Prime Minister made it very clear that if Pakistan does anything, we will hit them very, very hard. And next day, on the 9th of May, when Pakistan hit our air bases, military bases in 26 or 36 locations across the border, India unleashed hell fury on them. We pounded 10 or 11 air bases of Pakistan. We damaged their air radar systems, some of the Chinese air defense systems that they had in Lahore, Sargodha and other places. These were F-16, JF-17 bases. We caused a lot of damage. And that's when Pakistan rushed to the US for talks. And literally that was the off-ramp. US came back to India and said that Pakistan wants to talk. If they stop firing, will you do so? India said that whatever has to be done, it has to be done at the level of DGMOs. So this literally is the backstory. But US had very little role. We did not acknowledge.
We have not.
US is not a mediator.
Acknowledged.
We kept them in the loop as an ally, but we didn't ask them to mediate. It was Pakistan rushing to them.
Absolutely. So that is going to be a complex situation and a complex relationship to negotiate at this point in time. But that crucial meeting that Parikshit was talking about at the level of the DGMO, that will take place shortly. There is a briefing that's scheduled at 2:30 p.m. And of course, that is where we will hear from both sides, or at least from the Indian sides for certain, on what happens from here on. That's the meeting that we were talking about, Prime Minister Modi meeting with the National Security Advisor, with Jaishankar, the Minister of External Affairs, with the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, with the service chiefs as well. That's the Air Force and the Army chiefs on your screens. Parikshit, once again, let's just piece together, because now on the back of last night's briefing that was done, we have a very clear idea of the sequence of events that took place, especially between the 9th and the 10th, because those two were crucial nights. The role of the Indian Army, the role of the Indian Navy, more importantly, the role of the Indian Air Force, pieced together the sequence of events between the 9th and the 10th.
Well, we had been operationally alert ever since the Pahalgam attack happened, so to say. And since Operation Sindoor, the level of alert was very, very high. Let me start with the Army and the Air Force. The Army, all right, so it's noon now, so we can expect those talks between the DGMOs to have begun. These are talks via a hotline, and I believe this conversation will be a brief one, where we will discuss what the status is as far as the talks
I would
are
imagine
concerned.
that this is going to be more operational in nature on what is happening at the ground level and so on and so forth.
Absolutely, no nitty-gritties, nothing political. You know, what has happened, what you have done, how we will respond, warn you.
So we just want to be clear that it's not that the DGMO talks will decide the next course of action as far as the relationship is concerned. The DGMO talks will focus on the operational stuff. What is happening at the LOC? What is happening at this point in time in terms of any violations that may have been detected? India will obviously put forward its objections to what was done on the 9th, on the 10th night. So all of that will be what is discussed. It's not going to be, what is the shape or the contours of our engagement with Pakistan. That is not the purview of the DGMO, and that is certainly not going to be an outcome that we should expect as far as these conversations are concerned.
Absolutely.
With that perspective, Parikshit, back to you.
Right, and just to tell our viewers, in the meeting that happened at the Prime Minister's residence, you had the 3 service chiefs, you had the NSA, you had the Foreign Secretary, you had the External Affairs Minister. This is where consensus would have been made on what we have to communicate. The DGMO will only communicate the political will of the country. And, at the most, he will say that let's have this understanding till the time we speak next. And DGMOs talk all the time. So it's nothing unusual. Keeping in mind, coming back to your question, Shereen, what happened on 9th and 10th? We used all our air defense systems. We have an integrated defense shield. You've got the Akash air defense system. You've got the Shilka air defense systems. You've got the Barak air defense system as well. You've got the L-70 guns. And now these have, and also the S-400 air defense systems. So this has a range from anywhere between 70 kilometers till about 400 to 600 kilometers. So we were hitting targets, drones which are low flying, those which are high flying, and also we used our fighters such as the Rafale, the Sukhoi fighters to hit targets deep within Pakistani territory. So, for example, the fighters were used to hit terror camps which are about 200 to 300 kilometers from the border. The artillery guns and loitering munitions were used to hit targets which were close to the border. So those 9 or 10 terror camps, they are the biggest hubs for terror. We were told that Bhavalpur, Shereen, was hit the hardest. Now, coming back to what we did to the air bases, after Pakistan hit 26 locations in India, we unleashed the BrahMos missile. We used it to hit significant air bases in Pakistan. 10 or 11 of them were badly damaged. Their air radars in Lahore were destroyed as well. And that is what led to Pakistan asking us for DGMO talks. It was Major General Chaudhry, who is the DGMO on the Pakistani side. He called up Lieutenant General Ghai on the Indian side around 11 a.m. on 10, saying we want to talk. And that's when the talks happened in the afternoon. And the Navy also was at a very high alert. They were carrying out regular missile strikes within the Arabian Sea as part of their preparedness, just to show a very strong offensive posture. In fact, we were also keeping our eyes very close to the Karachi port, saying and sending a message to Pakistan, if you have any misadventure, remember we have a very strong operational edge in the Arabian Sea, and we can do you serious damage.
But that was not an option that was exercised.
Not exercised. It was only a warning.
Yeah. It was only a warning. That was not an option that was exercised. That was what transpired on the 9th and the 10th ahead of the cessation of military operations. Remember, as Parikshit and the Indian government have been highlighting that they do not see this as a ceasefire. They see it as an understanding at this point in time. And perhaps we will get to see more details. Yes, Parikshit, any updates?
All right. We believe we will also be getting some speakers. We have several high-level experts who've been joining CNBC-TV18 over the last few days. They will be joining us as well. But those talks would have begun now. Around 2:30 this afternoon, we are expecting a briefing by top military officials. External Affairs Ministry would also be present. Remember, this is a coordinated response, a whole-of-government approach that the government is taking when it comes to our response to Pakistan. And just to tell our viewers, the economic measures that we have taken, suspending the Indus Waters Treaty for that matter, that has not changed. We will continue taking measures such as flushing our reservoirs to make sure that the flow of water to Pakistan is impacted. During this agricultural season, we will be seeing how Pakistan will get impacted. None of that is going to change. There is now a new normal when it comes to our dealing with Pakistan. Whenever Pakistan strikes us, it will be harder, bigger, deeper. In fact, we're told by sources that the message from the Prime Minister, Shereen, to top officials was that agar wahan se goli chalegi, to yahan se gola chalega. Our response will now be harder, bigger, deeper. And we've also communicated to Pakistan and also officials on the ground that next time you carry out any terror attack against us,
it will be treated as an act of war. Yeah. Well, that is the latest at this point as far as the India-Pakistan conflict is concerned. But there are several other important developments that are taking place. Scott Bessent is expected to speak shortly. Remember, President Trump tweeting that an agreement has been arrived at with China overnight in Geneva. Contours of the deal have not been made public yet. Perhaps we will get more details. So we are going to take a break here and come back with more on the market action as well as with more on the India-China trade deal and what Scott Bessent has to say.